Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about corruption in our tribal societies. Oh, sorry. By the way, I'm Aliyah Zephyr. I am studying my generals right now, first-year student. This is my group.
My name is Valerie. I'm from Spirit Lake. Right now I'm in generals. This is my second year.
My name is Brianna. I am in general studies. I'm from the Siouxsie tribe. And my topic is about funding in the tribal foster care systems.
My name is Julie Middleton. I'm from the Hokapti Dakota Yate, and I am majoring in criminal justice. And my question, I guess, is what challenges do Indian countries face when it comes to jurisdictional issues?
I'm Gianna Robertson. I'm from Turtle Mountain. I'm in general studies, and I'm talking about tribal healthcare funding.
Okay, you know definitions. Okay, so corruption is the act of corrupting or state of being corrupt.
Society is the next word. It is a body of individuals living as members of a community.
The next one is solve. It's to find the answer or explanation for or clear up.
I didn't say when I introduced myself, but my topic is how do schools corrupt Native American students? Corruption in schools for Natives have always been there. Boarding schools are the perfect example of corruption. When students were taken by force from their families to attend boarding schools that were hundreds of miles away, then were stripped of their native dress, native culture, native traditions, and have been beaten for speaking their own language. How can we move on as adults knowing our culture and language is slowly disappearing, knowing our history is not written in the books along with Christopher Columbus? They learn more about the modern culture than they learn about themselves. Native American students are taught the role of an American and how to be an American instead of teaching students about their own cultures and their own roles in their traditional society. Native students should not have the feeling of being out of place or uncomfortable when everyone else is attending school for the same reasons as they are, which are to learn. Native American students learn twice as hard than any other race to be educated and sometimes to get away from the problems at home. A statement from the article states, Native Americans are increasingly defined by their income bracket and all the problems associated with poverty rather than their ethnic identity. In most public schools, teachers in the district ignore or are ignorant towards the Indian culture. Thank you.
I didn't state my question, but my question is, what is corruption in funding the foster care systems in Native American tribes? So when it comes to accessing the necessary funds, skills, and responsibilities for Native American foster care systems, there's always been a lack of support from not only the state, but also from the tribal systems. Part of the problem with being able to meet the requirements for the Title IV-E are the inability to safely design a safety plan with a parent or caregivers to allow the child to remain in the home while under investigation, or lack of appropriate relative caregivers for temporary or permanent placement, and the lack of licensed Indian foster homes or group homes, either on reservation or off reservation. Because of the administrative burdens and complexity of the preprint and the direct funding process, many tribes lack the resources to navigate the process to get this funding. If tribes want to operate a child welfare system, they are often forced to go through a tribal state agreement. This places tribes in the unpalatable situation of negotiating with states, which often have no desire or incentive to work cooperatively with tribes in order to develop agreements. Not only does this create an unwanted burden for tribes and states, but it also represents a dereliction of federal duties to work with tribes. According to the second paragraph of the introduction from After Wrapping Funding Tribal Systems, it states that the ability for tribal governments to fund their own tribal welfare systems is a critical component of promoting tribal sovereignty, as well as ensuring Native children and families receive culturally appropriate services. The issue is not whether tribes want to provide these services to their communities, it is often whether they have the necessary resources and access to implement these services. Under the current U.S. child protection funding model, tribes are faced with challenges and barriers that prevent them from accessing the necessary funding needed. Given that only 3% or 18 out of 574 federally recognized tribes have successfully completed the requirements to the federal government's satisfaction to access the primary source of federal child protection funding, a new approach is desperately needed. In conclusion, the current system lacks the requisite capacity for sovereign control of their child welfare systems due to not being able to meet certain requirements of the Title IV-E. The Title IV-E is the structure of 3 separate streams of funding. This means that each tribe could strategically select a level of funding that is appropriate for their resources and capacity for self-governance. For example, in paragraph 276, a tribe could focus on a self-governance in the culturally relevant training of foster parents, but might continue a tribal state agreement for the operation of the rest of its child welfare services, meaning that they will be able to use existing structures to provide services in ways that are appropriate for their unique situations.
My question is, what challenges do Indian countries face when it comes to jurisdictional issues? According to Bowles and Mead 2012, the FBI Law Enforcement Bulletin, Volume 81, Issue 5, the crime rates in Indian countries have and are concerned when it comes to jurisdictional issues. The reservation have not had the authority to prosecute non-Native Americans who committed crimes on the reservations. These issues come to a standstill because of jurisdictional issues in the tribal, state, and federal laws. As people of our tribes, we are aware of these issues, but our hands are tied because of jurisdictional issues and the settling of crimes. To elaborate, according to Bowles and Mead, quote, shocking homicide rates, skyrocketing levels of juvenile crime and gang activity, child abuse, and substance abuse plague over the 1.4 million people who populate tribal land, unquote, who become victims by non-Native American people because of poverty and lack of leadership, which is why the Tribal Law and Order Act of 2010 came into place because Native American tribes are fighting back. Very concerning when jurisdictions are at a standstill because they don't know what to do or how to handle these issues and protecting Native American tribes and their sovereignty.
My question is, how is tribal healthcare provided? From the article, policies change in American Indian, Alaska Native, health profession, education. As we know, there's a lot of disparities in the Native community, one of which is healthcare. As stated in this article, there are many factors that contribute to inequalities in our healthcare system, such as education, health profession, and economic development opportunities. It is a birthright to be given these programs due to treaties with the U.S. government, but they are severely underfunded. It is why it is very important to learn about the history between the indigenous people of America and the U.S. government. Tribes have been working on more funding for these programs to increase indigenous health professionals. Most programs have not been reauthorized for more funding, so as the cost of tuition rises, scholarships are decreasing. It is very important that tribes offer scholarships for future role models for the youth. The ultimate goal is to get more Native Americans in health professions to decrease disparities. But recently there has been advancements with self-determination within the tribes, and they're working on the funding.
Okay, so I didn't have a question, but my topic on corruption is in the ceremony, or the ceremonial way of life. So as we've discussed, there are many ways one can find corruption on our reservations, from businesses to schools. There seems to be a fault to our systems everywhere, sadly. But what about when it comes to our ceremonial way of life? Some would say our roots. I'd say depending on where you practice, it's tough to say. I, however, do believe that there can be a sort of personal corruption that can come with this practice, whether it be because of guilt, drugs, alcohol, depression. It can sometimes be hard to stay true to our ceremonial way of life. The article I read was a great look into how the sweat ceremony is being increasingly used in various places like medical, mental health, correctional, and substance abuse centers. Before we begin going into the many benefits that come from practicing sweat, we have to ask ourselves, what is sweat? Sweat is the combination of intense heat exposure with psychotherapy and counseling, ideally incorporating group process. The main purpose of the sweat ceremonies is to keep oneself in good relations by giving back to creation some of the energy that we are always receiving. While in sweat, we often give thanks and ask that ourselves and others be blessed. A study was conducted on 85 college students who were randomly assigned to one of two conditions, a sweat group and a non-sweat group. Results showed that the sweat therapy group appeared to have a greater therapeutic quality compared to the non-sweat group. These results also showed a great increase in spiritual and emotional well-being, directly attributed to participation in the sweat ceremony. The health benefits are also important when it comes to the use of sweat. Coleman confirmed additional health benefits of using the sweat lodge, noting that it promotes healthier skin, agent-eliminating toxins, enhances any immunity, and promotes deeper sleep, pain relief, and muscle relaxation. And this is only one of the many applications sweat has been used for the benefit of mental and physical health. Not only does sweat benefit our mental and physical health, but it also helps us as Native people explore and reconcile issues surrounding our own cultural identity. I take pride in talking about the use of sweat lodge ceremony because it has helped me heal my broken heart when I was pregnant carrying my son, and it to this day continues to help me be a better relative and mother. And as a group, we kind of talked about a solution that could help all of us in all of our categories, and it was education. So if we was to educate our youth while they were younger on these certain things, then as they grow up, they can help fight for our youth and our upcoming people so that they can do better in all these areas of corruption that have continued to be like this for a long way in our tribal society. And then Julie actually found a solution to her problem as well, and it's Tribal Law and Order Act makes it possible for changes to be made. Public safety and the criminal justice systems in Indian country. The effectiveness of reform depends on the abilities of those in opposition to cooperate within the tribal criminal justice system. In this case, the federal government will have fulfilled its responsibilities under the treaties and trust accords, guaranteeing that the people of Indian country will live in a secure environment. Y'all got questions? Cool. Thank you guys for your time.